I'm Tony Lepore, Local 591 EAP Coordinator.
And I'm Ken Morse with Local 591 doing EAP work. And joining us today is Mike Gaziano again. Thank you, Mike, for joining us. Mike's with Recovery Ways. You want to give us a little bit of your background?
Sure. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the clinical director here in Recovery Ways. And been doing this almost 31 years. So I've been a therapist a really long time.
And you're 22 now?
22. Started right out of the womb like, I want to help. So, absolutely.
So, you know, one of the things that we get a lot as a question at work is if someone within the family is not doing well, how does that family member that wants to help, how do they get them to a better place? How can they best help them?
So what you want to do is be able to shine a little bit of a light on the concerns that you're having. What you don't want to do is go into a you statement. You did this, you're acting this way, because the minute you hear a you, you're going to go in, the other person's going to go into a blame mode, shut down, and not want to hear what you have to say. I think one of the best advice I can give to a family member who's concerned about somebody else is to have them be very sincere. I'm concerned about you. I'm seeing you struggle with whatever you're observing. Talk about the behavior, not them as a person. Separate the two things. When I see you coming home and you go right to your man cave and I don't see you for 4 hours, I'm feeling fear, lonely, and sad because you're not here, and I'm thinking what's going on with you. When you didn't show up for 3 days and I was worried that you weren't alive, you know, I'm just letting you know that I'm afraid for you and I want to help. Being sincere with somebody who's very frightened to look at their problems fosters an environment where it is not judgment, it's care and compassion. The minute I start with, you know what, this is the 5th time you've done this, and you just start into this litany of things, they're going to shut down. So you reach out in a genuine, sincere way. Sometimes you have to do what's called an intervention, where you actually bring other family members or friends that have observed the behaviors with this person to be able to highlight them and do it from a compassionate place, not from a judgment place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there typical mistakes that a family member makes when they're trying to help?
The number one mistake is believing that it has to be a certain way. So being clear with you, only thing is not to create shame or guilt. Like, as I shared with you, I come from a very Sicilian background, so there's a little bit of a playful nature of guilt that happens in my family, just being honest with you.
You can relate.
I can relate.
So what I want to encourage them is to not look at them and say, do you know what you're doing to me? Do you know how this is affecting me? And going at it and at it and at it. So one of the big problems is to think that if you shame them, they will want to change and seek help. It only fosters more of a problem and more of a denial. And the other thing you don't want to do is create a cheerleading mindset. You're such an amazing person. I just love you so much, and I just know that once you get this behind you, you'll be doing just great, and blah, blah, blah. And you keep trying to pump them up. And the problem with that is the more you pump them up, the more they're beating themselves up inside of their head. So you're trying to support them and say, I know you can do this, I know you can get the help, and they're thinking, oh yeah, if I'm that great, why do I feel so miserable? Why do I want to run out of this room right now and drink or go shopping or whatever that behavior is? So the two things to watch out for is to create a guilt and shame spiral, either through, attacking them or trying to pump them up. Be genuine and real, talk about real issues, and don't try to sugarcoat it. Just be genuine in a loving, caring, compassionate way.
So Mike, in my experience, the family members see the path for the addict as a crystal clear path, and all they need to do is get on that path. Could you maybe give us some of your thoughts on how that may work or should work?
Well, I'll tell you this. I had when I was doing a family program, I had a father come to me and he says, I have flow-charted my 23-year-old daughter's path of her recovery. And as long as she does all of these things, everything will be great. Because he told me he's an amazing, gifted business person. And I respectfully looked at him and I said, I understand that you're a gifted business person. And the path that you see was very clear for you in what you did. But when it comes to emotions and addiction, you have to throw logic out the window and look at it from a different point. So I would encourage that father or any family member to say, the path to recovery is individualized. And just because you think this is the way it needs to look, they may not be wanting to look at it from that point. And if you challenge them to where they have to acquiesce to your request, then whose recovery is it? All of a sudden they're like, I'm doing everything you told me to do and I'm still feeling miserable. You were the one that told me this was the path I'm supposed to take. Now what are you going to do for me? And then you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't supposed to come back on me. I had it all planned out. So I would encourage them to say, these are things I know that have worked for me. You could say that. So if you're in your own recovery and you know that 12-step work and having a sponsorship has helped you, you can look at them and say, you know what? If you want my advice, and I don't know if you do, but if you do, I'll just tell you that these were the things that helped me and that clearly helped understand my path to recovery. You may want to consider, or you may want to seek additional support and guidance to make that change.
How frustrating is that for the family?
Extremely, because they perceive in their mind that the person is actually not following the plan as they thought it was supposed to be. I tell families to build on what I call the M&Ms of motivation. I want them to maximize the positive of what's going on with the person struggling, minimize the negative. Look at where they're at, not where they're not at. Because if I'm going to be told, why don't you do this next, or this is what you were supposed to do, I could become rebellious, resentful, and fall right back into where I was. And as families get frustrated, if they learn to say, you know what, I have to let go of trying to control and direct this recovery piece for my loved one. I don't want to be the recovery cop. I don't want to be the hovering mom or dad or whatever. I need to allow and trust, key word here, that things are getting different. There's an equation in recovery, and it says, healthy behavior over time equals trust. Here's the piece for families to realize. They've got to trust that they're not falling back into their old patterns the way they respond to them. Then they can also build the trust from the relationship moving forward as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm Tony Lepore from Local 591.
And I'm Ken Morse, as we said earlier, from Local 591 as well, and Mike from Recovery Waves. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.